All right, Mac Jones is where we start the daily thread today. And listen, by the way, that thing that I read about Aaron Rodgers, there wasn't a question mark there. That was me reading it and being like, are you kidding me? Listen, Amina Smith and Tommy Curran, I know Mac Jones is having a good season. I don't know that PFF should put him below Mac Jones at this point, but that's just my own opinion.
But these are measures. They're simple measures. If somebody is playing better statistically than another guy, you can't.
My problem with all this data now. Just, some of it has to be the good old eye test. But anyway, I digress, Curran. We did have, I don't want to say low expectations, but I would say moderate expectations for Mac Jones. So I think we can all agree, and Amina, please pipe in if you don't. I think we can all agree that he's at least reached and exceeded those expectations, right?
I would say I definitely agree that he's met those expectations and really exceeded those expectations. Just like you said, coming in, those expectations were moderate. And if you ask some people around New England, they're not even sure if Bill Belichick really wanted Mac Jones. I'm not a part of that crew. I feel like Bill Belichick got the quarterback that he wanted. But, we talked about this during the offseason about Mac Jones being accurate, having that arm. But then we saw during the beginning of this season that he's composed in the pocket, that he's able to adjust when things don't go his way. And also, I take a look at that offensive line, the fact that there's just musical chairs happening with that offensive line, and he's still able to do his job. I take a look at that, and I say to myself that, Mac Jones is not only meeting the expectations, but exceeding them. And you can't really ask for more out of him, Tom Curran, when you take a look at Mac Jones. It's just like he's doing his job. What more do you want out of him?
And to me, I marvel at what he's done over the last calendar year to be at Alabama, to win that job, first-year starter, then scale the draft boards, be drafted where he was, beat out Cam Newton, and then go into the season and be arguably the best player on the roster through 6 games. Judon's right there with him. But really, you could make the case that it's Matt Judon and Mac Jones. They're the best players on the team. And that's why I think the Patriots need to start treating him as such. He doesn't have to be 10-2, hands on the wheel, get it out of the driveway, down the street, and then back to the garage. Put more on him, not just in terms of attempts, Trenni, but in terms of start drives with Mac Jones throwing the football. Open it up in terms of going 5 wides and throw it all over the joint. That's, to me, what I'm talking about, because he doesn't have to be Tom Brady in 2001 with just manage it because we got a great defense. The defense isn't as good as Bill Belichick thought it was going to be, and hopefully he realizes that soon.
So when you say all that, Curran, would you say that your expectations for Mac Jones, both this year but also long-term, like what his ceiling could be, have those changed for you?
For this year, yeah. For long-term, I think there are few players in the NFL at the quarterback position who can not only win with anybody, with any team around them, but can also raise the level of their team and single-handedly win games. I don't know if Mac Jones will ever be that. And I know that we got pushed back today on the email thread with comparisons to Kirk Cousins or Andy Dalton. Both of those are Pro Bowl level players. I don't want him to be Kirk Cousins. I want him to have a bigger set than Kirk Cousins has shown. And probably Andy Dalton too. But there is going to be a ceiling to his athletic and performance skills, Amina.
I think that Mac Jones, at least when I've taken a look at him throughout this season, that he continues to, I had my expectations, but he continues to open it up more and more and more every time he gets out there on the field. And I get more impressed with Mac Jones the more he's able to do for the Patriots. And that's simply because of the fact that he's a rookie quarterback going out there, again, with the troubles that they've had on this offense and still able to compose himself. Now, you look at this team and you know that they're 2-4, so they're not doing that well. But I take a look at Mac Jones. He's trying to do everything in his power to make sure that his team gets a win. They're not able to pull it out, but that's because Mac Jones is obviously not the only person on this team. But I continue to be impressed by what Jones is able to do on the field.
Yeah, and I guess, why, Curran, I'm the one, you can say it, I'm the one who brought up the Kirk Cousins and the Andy Dalton comparisons in
and
the
a lot
email
of people
today.
would.
Right, those were the names that were being thrown around early. And I guess now I look at him, and while he might not be physically or technically much better than those guys, there is something. I do feel like there's an intangible. That's what I'm looking for. An intangible with him. I don't know what that's.
He's got stones. He plays.
I was like, what's the visual for intangible? Yeah. I was like, usually not up here, but all right, Curran.
Look at Kirk Cousins and his body of work. He's a check down Charlie. Things go bad, he checks it down, he throws underneath. Mac Jones threw a pick in his 6th NFL game the other day. He came back and then threw an absolute seed to a spot and created a touchdown. Kirk Cousins doesn't do that. Derek Carr doesn't do that. There are so many quarterbacks around the NFL who have more talent. He'll never be Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen in terms of being able to beat you in multiple ways and be electrifying and drop your jaw. So he's going to have to be excellent in some other ways. And I think it's toughness, mental acuity, and just the complete disregard for consequence.
All right, let's go to the Ford big board and compare Tom Brady and Mac Jones in their first 200 passes. Brady completed over 62% of his passes. Mac has 72.5 completion percentage. Brady had almost 80 more yards by this point. He threw 9 touchdowns, 4 picks. Max is 7 and 6. Jones has a higher QB rating by a couple of points. Amina, do you, when you look at Jones versus Brady, statistically, and what they both did in their first year, is it possible that Jones is having a better rookie year? Or first year, because
I would say that maybe if you look at that, yeah, the completion percentage and also the QB rating is better than Tom Brady. But my mind automatically goes to long term. I look at Mac Jones and I'm like, okay, if he has a better skill set than Tom Brady coming in, based off of the scouting report that he has a better build, that maybe he doesn't have a poor arm or a poor build or anything like that, I start to think, how much better can Mac Jones be than Tom Brady? That's the question that I ask. Looking at that, we compare those 200 passes, or through those 200 passes, just how Tom Brady and Mac Jones, how they compare. But I feel like that sample size, in my opinion, is just too small to see how both Tom Brady and Mac Jones really compare out there on the field.
To me, having covered that team, that was a horrible team until Tom Brady took over a quarterback. Then it was a defense that was outstanding. The weapons around Mac Jones are better than what Tom Brady had, but Tom Brady had a little bit more experience. He had Troy Brown and Kevin Falk on that offense. There's really not that same level of experience on the Patriots offense right now. Probably had an equal running back in Antoine Smith, but the defense was lights out. It was a hand and a glove, all 5 fingers moving together, with a Hall of Fame cornerback in Ty Law and a Hall of Fame defensive lineman in Richard Seymour. So that team on defense was better. Brady had to do less. When we talk about the overall, so yes, statistically, I think Mac Jones is performing in a more potent way with better talent around him. But when we talk about the overall, the ceiling for Mac can't be as high as Brady's, because Brady physically is a better prospect, as much as people might push back on that. He's 6'5". He's 225. He toned up his body. He already had a better arm than Mac Jones. The only thing Mac Jones has physically over Tom Brady is a little bit of foot speed. What impresses me, though, Trenni, the physical toughness that they have both shown. Tom Brady over the course of 25 friggin' years, and Mac Jones over the course of 6 games.